WNEM TV5 News Update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Raven Blue. Among our top stories tonight, a longtime pillar of Bay City is saying goodbye. The historic State Theater is filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy following a financial investigation. This means a trustee will be appointed to liquidate the theater's assets to pay its debts. The decision follows a financial investigation that took several months to complete. Many Bay City residents say they are devastated by the loss. As of now, all future events at the theater have been canceled. A judge has ruled one student will be allowed to testify in James Crumbley's trial. He is charged with involuntary manslaughter in the Oxford High School shooting. In February, the prosecution requested to call two witnesses. Both were students that were injured in the hallway on the day of the shooting. The prosecution will be able to decide which student can testify. The witnesses will not be able to give testimony on personal pain, trauma, or ongoing medical treatments. Jury selection for the trial starts Tuesday. State Republicans gathered in Grand Rapids today to select delegates and decide who they want to be their nominee for president. There was no major issues at the convention. Delegates have been selected and the votes for president are in. As the new state party chair, Pete Hoekstra, told us, for the most part, everything has gone on without a hitch. Former President Donald Trump will receive 51 delegates. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley will receive 4 delegates to the Republican National Convention this summer. Now here's Kyle with a look at your forecast.
Thank you, Raven. As we go into the overnight hours, still looking pretty good out there overall for us. We'll actually hang on to that as we go into your Sunday as well. We've got clear skies for you right now. We've got some high clouds that are trying to move in. I don't expect them to be very much of an issue because they are high clouds. And by the time we go into Sunday, most of those will be out of here. So we'll be talking more sunshine for us. We've got quiet conditions overnight, as you can see, but we do see the chance for some fog to develop as we go into very early Sunday morning. Most of that fog, I do think, will be situated in parts of the Thumb, also north of the Saginaw Bay. We do pick up wind overnight, though, and fog doesn't really like a lot of wind. It kind of makes it hard for the fog to develop. So I think that we'll see patchy fog at best, and if we do see it, it won't be around for too long. I actually do think the hour by hour might be a little aggressive with how much fog we might end up seeing. But as we go into the afternoon, either way, we will be looking at some sunshine moving in. We've got a southeasterly wind that does become a little breezy. We're talking 20 to 25 miles per hour for some of those gusts, but we're talking 60s for high temperatures, and we're also looking at those dry conditions remaining in place here for us. So by the time we go into Sunday night and Monday morning, we might have some clouds moving in. I think we'll start Monday with some off and on clouds and some sunshine. And then as we go into the afternoon, probably some more chance for some sunshine here, but still dry conditions for the majority of the daylight hours, if not all of the daylight hours for Monday, with rain chances more than likely holding off until we go into your Monday night and Tuesday morning time frame. You can see the front moving through here, bringing us some chances for some perhaps heavier downpours and maybe a few claps of thunder here and there. But generally speaking, the severe weather threat is far lower for this event. We are keeping, of course, an eye on this storm system as it moves in, just given what happened last week. But generally speaking, we do look to be a little bit safer from this particular storm system that will be moving in as we go into your Monday night and Tuesday. High temperatures for tomorrow, making it into the lower to middle 60s for us. We've got some upper 50s along our lakeshore communities. Other than that, we hold on to the warmth for your Monday, making it into the upper 60s, cooling down by Tuesday and through the end of the week there. But we're still roughly 10 degrees or if not more for some locations as we end the 7-day forecast in the middle and upper 40s. We've got dry conditions for Wednesday and Thursday before a couple of rain chances as we end our week into next weekend.
Remember to tune into WNEM TV5 on air and online 24/7 for the latest news, weather, and information.